there was, over the course of the first years of the 20th century, a rising negrophobia, as it was called. A negrophobic attitude would look at a black individual and only see beneath whatever middle-class exterior might be there, deep down there is a savage. And only the control and the discipline and the surveillance of whites was able to keep that black individual in check.
Almost all facets of American society had given in to that notion of racism. History, biology, psychology, sociology, philosophy, all talked about African Americans as being inferior, as being not equal, as being not worthy of equal treatment. One of the things that's happening at the same time is national advertising, and all of those things that are associated with inferiority are being attached to the black race. The message in the image was that African Americans were criminals, on the edge of criminality. These images often are distorted African Americans. They're not real human beings. There's something out of kilter. There's something not right about them. Large heads, often with big lips, bulging eyes. Something's wrong. All of these things are working to make real the notion of African Americans as inferior beings, as an inferior race, as people not like white people, but as people separate from them.
But one man won respect from whites because he publicly advised blacks to work within the system of Jim Crow. He was Booker T. Washington. By the turn of the century, Washington had become one of the most popular figures in America. He journeyed up and down the country, preaching the gospel of material wealth, moral virtue, character. His audiences to avoid agitating for civil rights. He said that the best thing to do about civil rights was to let them own and work at being a businessman of the Negro.
He started the National Business League while he was in Tuskegee so that people could learn how to start a business, develop, and prosper. Went to high school. They explored all the trades. The girls explored cooking, sewing, and handicrafts the first 2 years, and the last 2 years they specialized. The last years of my high school, I specialized in advanced dress. When I graduated, my high school diploma, like your college degree, shows a skill in advanced dressmaking.
But Washington's optimism and his passion for industrial education was not shared by all. At Atlanta University in Georgia, the highly respected Harvard-educated sociologist and scholar of black life, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, saw that despite Washington's conciliatory efforts, racial terror continued to rage across the South. Although Du Bois had once supported Washington's program, he decided the time had come to him.
In 1903, he wrote The Souls of Black Folk, with a chapter, Mr. Booker T. Washington and others. It was just this wonderful attack on all those who supported Jim Crow, including Booker T. Washington, and saying in a very forthright way, we cannot give up the right to vote. We cannot give up civil and political equality. We cannot accept being an unequal, subordinate race in America.
We claim for ourselves every single right that belongs to a freeborn American, political, civil, and social. And until we get these rights, we will never cease to protest and to assail the ears of America. W.E.B. Du Bois.
By the early 1900s, Washington was the most influential black man in America. His critics called him King Booker. He received financial support from powerful industrialists, including Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller. He was embraced by President Theodore Roosevelt. All of them enthusiastically endorsed his program of black economic uplift within the framework of black subordination and Jim Crow. As Washington's power increased, Du Bois's criticism became sharper, more personal.
He has accepted revised constitutions. He has acquiesced in the Jim Crow car policy. He has kept dumb as an oyster in regard to peonage. he has even discovered that colored people can better afford to be lynched than white people can afford to lynch them. W.E.B. Du Bois.
In 1906, Washington visited Atlanta, a city in which blacks had achieved success.
Atlanta was a boomtown, one of the most prosperous cities in the country. In fact, the only city that exceeded Atlanta for rate of growth was Los Angeles.
Booker T. Washington did look at Atlanta as a model for the kind of philosophy that he used about what were considered ideal race relations.
Atlanta was considered the most progressive city in the South, and what they could point to was concrete evidence. More Negro colleges than any other city in the United States. More African American publication than almost any other city.
And people took real pride in the accomplishments of black people. It made us feel vindicated and validated. My dad was so proud when he had visitors come to our home. He would take them on a tour of all of the schools, drive through the neighborhoods, so-and-so built that house, and he'd show them how blacks lived in Atlanta.
Booker T. Washington took a few success stories and tried to use that to show that, in fact, African Americans, if you played by the rules that I've established, that, in fact, you too could be successful. That was, of course, not the reality.
The reality was that Atlanta was one of the most racially segregated cities in the South.
W.E.B. Du Bois is one of the most intelligent, eloquent figures in the country. He's a teacher at Atlanta University, a dignified man. He always wears a suit. If he has an appointment with an attorney in the Candler building, he can't just go in and get in the elevator, no matter what individual merits he has. He has to wait for the freight elevator or walk up the stairs. The white elevator operator is not going to take him upstairs. That's a place where Du Bois leaves the affluent black community, goes into the white community, and has to respect forms of segregation, of Jim Crow hierarchy, where his affluence, his intelligence, his education means nothing.
Racial tensions were intensified when Thomas Dixon's melodramatic play, The Klansman, opened in Atlanta.
Dixon's play presented in stark contrast the two strongest images in the South at this time. One image is of the innocent, virginal, defenseless, 18-year-old Anglo-Saxon female. The other is the dark-skinned, leering, lustful, criminal, degenerate black man, and the latter is preying upon the former. And for him, there was only one solution to this: the Klansman.
The play glorified the Ku Klux Klan and denigrated blacks. Throughout the week of September 17th, the press reported incidents of rape, almost all of which later proved to be false. By Saturday the 22nd, white tempers were at the boiling point.
The streets were swelling with people. Extras were flooding the street corners. Second assault, third assault. At one point, a man got up on a box and started delivering a speech. We've got to do something to protect our white women. Packs of white men and boys began rushing from the train stations, from the hotel lobbies, from the theaters to the spot. You have by now about 5,000 people. The cries of revenge, of anger, of white retaliation against blacks increase. A black messenger boy rides by on a bicycle. Someone knocks him down. He gets up and tries to defend himself. 10 people swarm in upon him and beat him senseless, leave him bleeding in the gutter. This only excites greater bloodlust. So the mob begins to spread out. Packs of 100, 200 begin marching up and down the alleyways, trying to find black men and women working in the shops, dragging them outside and beating them. Streetcars bringing black citizens into the city. Mobs surround the car. If a black man or woman didn't fight back, he would be knocked down, kicked around, and then usually left alone. If he fought back, he was dead. This was downtown Atlanta. This was a few blocks from the police station. The state capitol was a few blocks up on the hill. The governor is up there.
As the mob rampaged, 13-year-old Walter White and his postman father, who were often mistaken for Caucasian, were driving through downtown Atlanta. Their fair complexion allowed them to safely pass through the rioters. Later, White would recall how they prepared to defend their home as the mob approached.